Hey everybody, it's Chaplain Sal, back with another coffee talk with another coffee cup. Thank you to Jackie for this one. I don't know if you get the reference, but it was the inspiration for my coffee talks. Anyway, so I'm back for another coffee talk. Hold on one second. I noticed I touch my face a lot when I do these videos. That's just a nervous habit that I have. So I want to make sure you guys see that I am actually disinfecting. I am washing my hands, proper hygiene, all that stuff. So, I thought I'd come to you and talk a little bit about presence. Presence, especially around the time of grief or death. I know I brought up in the video yesterday about people dying alone, which is hard. We're trying to make sure that people don't die alone during these crazy times. But normally, in somewhat normal times, and we do try to make sure that people don't die alone or don't grieve alone. You don't necessarily have to die to grieve something. Grief comes in all shapes and sizes and forms, and there's a great song by Jason Gray called Death Without a Funeral. There are things in our lives that we have to grieve, and that we do grieve, and sometimes they're a death without a funeral because we don't necessarily have a thing like a funeral service to mark the end of a thing like we do with the end of a life. That could be the loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, a divorce, anything that you are committed to and has meaning to you, and when that ends, you have to grieve the loss of it. That's totally normal. You know, you will have, scripture talks about there's a time for everything, a time to be happy, a time to be sad, a time for peace, a time for war. So there's a time for all of our human emotions and to let them come out. But I saw on Facebook this morning, one of my memories from Facebook came up, and it was a saying. It says, when someone is going through a storm, your silent presence is more powerful than a million empty words. When someone is going through a storm, your silent presence is more powerful than a million empty words. Let that sink in for a minute. You simply being present is more powerful than anything you can tell someone who's grieving. That's a big part of my ministry. Simply being present. There's a famous pastor who passed away from ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And he did a video series, and he said that he realized that a lot of his ministry was to simply show up and shut up. Just be with people. Oftentimes when we know someone is grieving, we want to fix it. We want to make it right because it's uncomfortable to be present in the midst of grief, especially if it's not our own grief. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to see people hurting. So often our tendency is to want to fix it. And that's hard. It takes a lot of practice to be able to just sit in silence with someone as they grieve and let them direct the conversation. Let them tell you where they want to go with the grief. It's tough. It takes a lot of practice. I'm still practicing it. It takes a lot of work. So, and I think the most biblical example I can think of for this would be the book of Job. If you know the story of Job, he loses everything. He loses his family, his wife, his livestock. He loses everything. And he's basically sitting in the dirt and the mud, grieving. And so his friends, 3 of his friends, show up in chapter 2 of Job. They know he's suffering, and so they show up. And then they empathize with him. Now, later on in the book of Job, they go off the rails, and he yells at him, he curses at them, and he says, "You're useless," because they start to tell him, you should be angry with God, you should yell at God. And no, they had it right in the beginning. Just be there, be present, help Job grieve. So I relate a lot to the book of Job. And so at one point in my life, I was Job, in the dirt, in the muck, grieving. And then now, I try to be more like Job's friends, at least in the beginning of the book. Just simply getting in the dirt and the muck and the crap with Job or whoever is suffering, and I try to suffer with them and just be present. Kind of the concept of, in the Jewish faith, of Shiva. If you just have 7 days where you just sit. You are present with those who are grieving. So I know it's a little tough in these days of the coronavirus pandemic. We can't physically be present with someone, but we have ways of, we can text, we can FaceTime, we can Zoom, and we can just connect digitally and be present and just say to someone, "Hey, I'm here when you're ready to talk," or "I'm here, let's just chat." All right, guys, this has been another Coffee Talk with Chaplain Sal. Hopefully these are helpful. If they are, let me know. If not, let me know. I will see you guys later. Rock on. Don't be a jerk.
No gathering for family and friends to eulogize. It's a death without a funeral.